Today I'm interviewing a man who's the definition of success by any metric, and that's Michael Coleman. He's a successful actor who's done shows like Once Upon a Time, successful voiceover artist who's done shows like Dragon Ball Z, created his own acting studio, created his own movie production company, and he's overcome really traumatic adversity that would crush most normal people. And we're going to talk about all that and more in today's episode. Robin Williams and you spoke when you were younger. Next thing you know, you're saying I want to become a full-time actor. What happened in between that conversation?
That's a great question. I used to have a regular show up at a place called Laugh Lines in New Westminster, and I was doing comedy one night with some other guys, and Robin Williams was in town filming Jumanji, and it was a rare night. Usually he'd go up and just entertain the crowd. He didn't. He just sat at the back of the club that night, watched a bunch of us, and let a bunch of us bend his ear, and it was a pivotal moment for me. And it just made it all feel really real. I don't, it's a weird thing. I don't believe in it. And yet it's how my foundations are. Like, I feel like I needed validation that it was a good choice. And in hindsight, I probably never needed that. But that boost from Robin Williams saying, no, if this is what you want to do, you're actually pretty good. You could do this. And it that was sort of the catalyst that spun into me, letting my mom know the good news that her son was going to go be a professional actor and all that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, yeah. But actually, the weird thing is that I found everybody was really supportive. Like, even my mom, my mom's advice, and it sticks to me to this day. My mom just told me, if that's what makes you happy, you're actually really good at it. You just got to be good enough that people pay you, and because you can't live here forever. And it's weird. It's really simple advice, but I'm like, oh my gosh, it made a lot of sense that day.
And you're like, you probably didn't even need it because you were getting snuck in through the back door of Laugh Lines to do stand-up comedy. You were underage already. You're like 16 years old.
We're already doing stuff.
So what is that? So did you think your 12-year-old Michael going, hey, I love performing. Do you have that? You're not worried about failure. You don't care if you look, because stand-up is a different beast, right? You're getting up there. You got to make people laugh on command. That's a weird thing for a 16-year-old to want to do.
Yeah.
Deal with that failure. So you did you just have that internal drive already going? And then Robin Williams is kind of like, hey, you can do it. You're like, yeah, but you're going to do it. Sounds like regardless, right?
Yeah. You know what? I think back to those days often, and it was just a case of, I was just like most teenagers. Like, I just had the audacity to just do what felt good.
Yeah.
And not really thinking about consequences or things I should be afraid of. I was just like, I like making people laugh. Like, I do it all day. It's what my dad did. It's what my brothers do. Like, it's just what my people do. And I was just like, this is a place where they'll let you do it. So
do you still have that though? Do you still have that, 20 plus years later, that I just want to do it because I enjoy it. I want to make people laugh. I want to.
More so now than ever. Really? Now that I've had, I've worked with all my childhood heroes. Mm-hmm. I've worked for Disney. I've worked for Marvel. I've worked for all the biggest companies in the world. And now more than ever, I realized it actually doesn't matter. I do it because I love it and I'm good at it. And people will pay me if I keep getting smart at it. So. But
then I met you, God knows, we're just showing my age, but probably 15 something years ago.
Yeah.
Or in my early 20s. Even back then, when honestly, the first thing I thought when I met you was like, oh, this guy's got business savvy. Yeah. That was because I was sort of still a bit of a marketer. I was doing all that. I was just doing acting as well. Did you work to gain that acting? Is that like a skill set? You're like, okay, I'm an actor, I'm a creative, but I'm like, I need some business to show business. Did you learn that? Or did you also, because the creative part seemed like it just like a natural thing. Did the business part be something that you sort of watched or something you clued into me like, hey, I need to make some money while I'm learning the craft?
Yeah, no, it was interesting. I actually read a book when I was like a teenager called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it's a book that just clicked. And it was it was almost like I felt like when I read that book, it felt like the same level of ease as when I learned the alphabet. It was like, this is just so easy. Why the heck wouldn't you just start with the end in mind? Why wouldn't you put first things work? Why wouldn't you be proactive and measure things? And then I quickly realized, I guess, because it wasn't that long for me understanding that book, getting into the craft, and realize most people in the industry never do it. One of the most popular phrases I used to love hearing was when actors would say, I just want to work on the craft. My agent takes care of all the business. I'm like, oh, that's a business to business relationship. They don't look after your business. They look after their business. Oh my gosh. Do you think your agent's looking after your business? Oh my, that's why your business is failing. Holy crap.
Yes. That's a great way to put it. So you learned that early on, and then and then you kind of got into obviously you got into teaching, and that's how I met you. A funny thing is, I'll kind of pivot here is, you said you had that thing with Robin Williams, and he made you feel like, oh, I think I can do this. I remember when I was auditioning with you, I was like, God damn it, I suck. And I did suck, 100%. Like, I was really bad.
You had something. You always
No. But here's the thing. That's what I'm going to get to you about. This is when I clicked, this guy knows business. And then I went, and I had a business acumen. That was sort of like my background, is when you were looking at me one day, and I just remember you being like, and you were just going like this, looking at me after I had just done a shit job. Because I'm honest with myself, right? I got better as it went on. You're like, you're like, yeah, something, you something there, you can do it, yeah. There's something there, and all you said with that, and I saw your wheels working, but I saw you breaking it down from a show business aspect of like 6'3" Indian. I think I know the market. He fits in here, so even if he sucks right now, he can get that later. But he's filling in a demand and a need. I went, oh, good. I remember thinking, I felt that, and I went, okay, good. That gives me enough time to get better at this thing. At least I can lean a little bit on I can play the brown card a bit. I can play the tall brown. Like there's a niche I can fill within this industry that's oversaturated with 1,000 blondes and even like a bunch of Indians, a typical type of Indian. I'm like, great. He gave me a little bit of hope, like, okay, I can at least rely on that aspect of the business, like that side, fill that void, maybe just get booked off of that. And there's a comedian we're actually filming here, in a couple episodes from now. I had actually, after you said that, not too long after, I booked a commercial. Wanna why? They're looking for a 6'3" Indian guy, right? Like who can play basketball. And I was like, filled that. How many of those guys exist? I was like, I filled the niche. Sure. And the comedian ended up being like 6'6". I think I just lied better than him in the audition. Yeah. But it was like, that weird little validation is what I needed. Because I was honest with myself. I'm like, hey, I got a long way to go to get better at this thing. But at least there is a thing with me in here. And I think, do you think a lot of people don't understand that? It's kind of like I heard, this is the thing I read from Chris Pratt one time. He said, know what you are and be very good at being like you on camera. And that's sort of what I ended up getting very good at. Like, if I can't play, like I'm not a Daniel Day-Lewis. I couldn't play different roles, but I knew how to be like whatever I was, happy, sad, angry. Now, when you're approaching it, where do you come from? Because you do voice acting work, right? Different animal, but with acting, do you anchor it in yourself and then add to it, or do you just get completely into a different character?
I always start from the story. So the way I look at every craft or every project, or every project is, what's the central question or what's the thematic statement? Like, what is this story asking the universe, or what is this story telling the universe? What does this character do? And I feel like, I believe we're all interconnected, and I believe we all have parts of, each other in us. And so I think it's always a combination of who I am as well as what the story needs. And there's always a version of that within me. But I always start with that. What does the story need first? And then when I do it, I think, there's so much to say on this. I feel like the number one thing, and you see from any actor that's had any level of success, I perform it like it's game day. This is what it looks like. And even when it's game day, that doesn't mean I'm not capable of direction. It's just, this is what it looks like. If you said, here's all the information with no guidance, how would you serve this story? And I play it like that. And I play it like I have a crowd of 1 or 2, like that's my audience. My audience is whoever's in the room at the time. I actually do that on set. When I'm on set, I don't perform for the camera. I actually perform for the other cast members in the crew. Like I do the show like it's a live interactive play. And I, not to get all matrixy, but there is no camera. And I just perform it like, and I actually, when I do comedy on set, I actually wait a second after they call cut, waiting for laughter. And if I don't get it, I'm like, we got to go again.
That's interesting. I never heard someone say that. You perform for them on set. That's wicked. That's actually. Yeah.
So for me, it's always just like everything is a play.
Yeah, that's good. Do you think any of your experiences in acting, like even performing in front of, like on camera, in front of a bunch of people, that's a weird scenario. Like that's psychologically really weird. Normal for you because you've done it a ton, but anyone outside looking in is like, what the hell? A bunch of randoms looking at you. The audition process, super weird, especially when you first start walking in. Anxiety. You said something good. It's like how to drop that anxiety when you walk through the doors, but like that anxiety coming in, dealing with rejection, a lot more no's, a lot more yeses. Like I said, you got into business. You've done a lot of other stuff in your life. Do you actually think that acting, that experience, has this made it easier to do other stuff in general?
Yeah, without question. I think the secret to, for me, acting is just recreating the human experience, but with more analysis and self-awareness. But I also think that's the key to good business. I'm a big fan of connecting your why to other people's why and all that's, it's just all about interconnection. It's about understanding humanity, understanding what drives people, what motivates people, what inspires people, what scares people. And that's business, that's life, that's acting. It's all the same thing.
How you juggle all of that? Like be quickly, like sort of like what does a day look like for you? Because like you said, you're a dad, right? Happy family man. You've got a successful career that impressive. A lot of people who don't know Michael, it's very difficult to make a 20 plus year career in voiceover and film and television. This guy's been doing a really great job at it. And then also he's started successful businesses on top of that.
Yeah.
What does it look like for you? How do you manage your day? How do you manage stress levels? And I'm talking to founders, entrepreneurs right now. I'm talking to people who don't have a lot of capital. They don't have a lot of money. They're just like, shit, I have an idea. I want to do this, but I'm also doing a bunch of other stuff that pays the bills. Acting pays your bills. I also have commitments. I'm not that guy like an Alex Hormozy who's like, I'm going to not talk to my family. I'm just going to work all day. I have to do that and I have to build a business on top of it. That's kind of what I do now in my life. I got a family. I got to build a business. Now I'm doing a podcast with you. You know, like how do you and manage stress levels? How do you do like manage all that?
Well, I think it's the same way, it's all about, again, going back to 7 habits and putting things in a quadrant, like what's an urgent and what's an important thing, what's not urgent, what's not important, and all the different combinations of that. So for me, like every day starts with family. It's the most important thing. Like none of this is worth anything except like being a dad is my favorite role. Being a partner to my lady is my favorite role. Like that's what I love. So, and everything else I do is just this cool craft I've learned. But my family is the most important. So I start every day with that. But like even today, like, we're doing this podcast here, early before lunch, but I've already had 2 meetings and discussed multiple 3 meetings. I forgot about the other one. I've had multiple project discussions, spent time with my family. And, I'm a big fan. One of the things that I think, and this is a recurring thing throughout all of it, is I've never been a luck or a look actor. Like I never try to be lucky and I've never had to try to have the right look. I often use the analogy, like where I live, there's a guy in my neighborhood who won the lottery twice. So he's a multi-millionaire because he won the lottery twice. But if anybody ever went to him and said, how do you become a millionaire? And if his advice was scratch tickets, I'd think you're crazy for following his. Can it happen? Yeah, I know a guy. He became a millionaire by winning this lottery twice, but it's not a business plan. So everything I do isn't about luck or look. I'm not good looking enough or lucky enough to have either one. So I actually have to just work for it. And I do everything with the intent of, this is learned skill. Fortunately, most people don't want to learn the things they need to do. So it makes your competition much smaller. So just be one of the 5% of the people in this world that actually are willing. And I don't invest anything that doesn't have a return. I don't do stuff for fun. The stuff I do is fun, but I don't do it for fun. I do it for profitability and for fun and for like, it's always an all-in. So I think too many people try to get lucky or have the right look. And if they're not lucky or have the right look or in the right place, or it's not who it's what all the stuff like
all that bullshit.
All the bullshit, man. Just actually get really, Steve Martin has a saying and he says it all the time. It's like, be so good they can't say no. And it's actually just the secret to life. Be so good they can't say no. And you know what? Also just happen to be a nice person at the same time. Do those 2 things and everything else falls in place.
That literally applies to everything you just said. So you said it for the arts, it applies directly to business. So business, what is it? Every action, like iterate, improve, build a set of processes. Don't just wait to get lucky. But like, okay, what do I have to do to get to that step? If it doesn't work, discard what doesn't work, keep doing it. And then it's a process of attrition, like you mentioned, keep going because only 5% make it. Just outlast everyone else who kind of just basically fed into that bullshit. And then they kind of dropped off and you're still there. And then be so good they can't say no. And same for business. Like if you're a business owner watching this, make a product so good they feel stupid saying no. And in acting, you are the product. So it's the same crossover. You are the product. They're buying you. So that is fantastic advice. And I wonder about this, and this is kind of a hard shift here. I know I almost remembered how to pronounce it, but I'm not going to try. But you got diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder in 2016. If you can pronounce it for me, it'll really help.
So I got Guillain-Barré syndrome. It was my second autoimmune disorder. So I've had 2. Usually when you get one, you get multiple. So I had one back in like 1983. I had something called severe ulcerative colitis. And then in 2016, I had Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is like French polio. The Guillain-Barré shuts down you have this myelin sheath that protects all your nerve endings. So I actually was completely paralyzed from the top of my head to the tip of my toes for forever. And I had to relearn how to walk and talk, as you can see. So I had to relearn everything like a tiny little baby. And it took, what am I, almost 9 years out and I'm still relearning things. Like it's a weird thing. Like I feel like a 9-year-old in some respect.
I got a lot of questions here. First off is, what did that do to your mindset? How did you cope with that when it was crap, everything's gone. You're stuck in your own head if you're paralyzed. So you're in your own head. What's going through? What voices are in your head? What are you saying to yourself to even get to that next day? That's what I'm interested in. And then how do you view everything now? And I know there's a view of probably like you're happy to be alive. There's that.
Yeah.
But just sort of your perspective on things in general. And then we can talk more about it. Just that's kind of what I'm interested in. What during the worst, what were you telling yourself to kind of get to the next day?
Yeah, so I've had 3 times in my life where I've laid in a hospital bed and I've heard people say the phrase, there's a really good chance he doesn't survive the week, so we just have to get all his affairs in order. So I've heard that sentence 3 times. Twice I wasn't paralyzed. The last time, so the 2 times that I was, and I was able to mutter a bunch of, Braveheart, like I can get through this sort of things. On the last one, it was the scariest one ever because I was 100% awake and alert in my brain, but unable to communicate with anybody. So it was really interesting. What was really powerful is learning what kind of people advocated for me to survive and what kind of people advocated for me based on my character that, oh, you know what, even if it's a small percentage, he's probably one of the small percentage guys who actually does it. Like he'll find a way to live. I also had it was my second child was born 6 months earlier. So I get diagnosed and I've got a 6-month-old baby. And to be honest with you, the motivation in my head was I can't ask this lady to raise this kid by herself. Like that'd be so rude. So I was like, so I was just like, I'm gonna survive for no other reason than to give this, kid a couple extra chances in this life to have somebody looking out for him. So
that's all you need, especially like parent to parent. That's what else
so
you
it's
need.
like so for me that was the big it was my children was the big motivator, and also my wife. Like it was just I couldn't do that to her, and I thought dying at that time would have been easy, and I was ready to go, but it also would have been incredibly selfish. So I decided not to die.
It's weird how at some point in your life becomes, especially when you're younger, it's all about you. It's all about you. I want to survive because, I want to do stuff. But then when you find someone you love, you have children, it goes, I kind of want to be here for these people. How do I service them? How do I make their lives? It stops being about you and it becomes on them. And it's actually become happier after when you don't make it about yourself anymore. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, like my kids are actually taking me shopping this weekend because dad never buys himself anything. Like I don't.
Yeah.
I have everything I need. I wear the same clothes I've been wearing for 15 years. Like I don't need anything. I don't change. It's a good shirt.
Hey man, watch my videos. I'm in the same cardigan in like 20 videos. I've had this for 30 years. Cardigans never go out of style.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
I'm happy. I'm comfortable. I don't have big, I don't have big things. I like simple things in life, and so I spend all my time just trying to, make sure I'm providing for my kids, making sure they're happy, and making sure they're going to make the world a better place. And that's it. That's my 100% focus, and everything else is just in service of that.
And then now, sort of getting to the second part of my question, your optics now in life when you're walking through. Obviously, there is that sense of like, shit. I'm lucky to be here. You can't help but feel that. And you did mention like right off the offset, you're like you haven't lost any of that passion for acting. You're enjoying it. Is part of that due to all that crap you went through? Where you're like, wait a second, this is what I get to do for a living? Even though it might suck sometimes, might be harder sometimes, but it's like, this is what I get to do. Is there an element of that?
Yeah, you know what? There's a different level. I think, if you once you get to be my age, I think if you hadn't had some levels of betrayal and trauma, you weren't even trying.
Yeah, I agree.
Get to this point here, and it's like, but what's really fascinating is I'm also at a place where I really know my people, and I'm really at peace with who I am. I like who I see when I look in the mirror.
Yeah.
I actually used to think about this a lot as a teenager. I always wanted to be the best version of myself. I actually thought about it. Like, how do I heard somebody talk about it once, and it was like, you really only have to take care of one person in your whole life, and it's you. And if you take care of you in a way, like if you love you and respect you, everything else comes in the right order and falls into place. So I've always done that. So I wake up every day trying to just think about, how do I serve my people? How do I make the world a better place just by being me? And that's it.
Is Rebel West Pictures, that's a production company you founded, right?
Yeah.
Are you guys still producing stuff? What's going on what's happening? This is mute for me. Like, what's going on with that? What projects you have? Like, what are you working on?
So
Scripting anything right now?
Yeah. So we got multiple projects. So we just finished, we're just finishing post-production on a 10-episode television series we produced. We're in meetings next month. Oh my gosh. We're in meetings next month and with all the big networks, and it's a good show. It's
comedy?
A funny show. Yeah, it's a comedy. Yeah. It's kind of like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but in a coffee shop. Like it's
Jesus
Christ. Yeah. So it's like, it's really funny. It's edgy. It makes fun of everybody on the extreme left and the extreme light and right.
Perfect.
And it's really just more about, we're all idiots and we're all self-righteous hypocrites. And, it just calls out everybody on all their bullshit, but without ever punching down. So
Yeah,
it crosses a lot of lines, but also with a lot
perfect.
of love and respect. So I think it'll be a hit. I think people will dig
That's
it.
the kind of programming we need. And by the
I
way,
think
I
so.
love Always Sunny. Are you sort of making it known? It's like, is it filmed? Like, are you setting the location in Canada, in a Vancouver? Like, is that like a coffee shop in Vancouver, or is it just like ambiguous? Like, it's a
It's
coffee shop.
ambiguous. You know what it is?
Yeah.
And even then, like geographically, like it's unapologetically set in the Pacific Northwest, but
Okay.
it could be Oregon, it could be Vancouver, it could be Seattle.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I just never get as regional. Like we have like I'm a proud Canadian. So there's a couple like there's some stupid jokes in there that are so specifically Canadian. But then
Yeah.
there's stuff that's actually we got Scandinavia, we got we're all over the globe with our stuff. So it's I'm also a big fan of I really do like my mission in life with all my stories in Rebel West is, we have more things in common than the things that divide us. So let's stop trying to do win-lose situations and let's try to work together on things.
You were writing back when I first met you a long time ago. Like you've always been a writer. Obviously, you're already a comedian and stuff. Did the drive to produce direct was just to have more control over what was being the final product? Because when you're acting, you do something, then it gets edited, and you're like, oh, I kind of liked take number three better, or that was kind of a weird choice they made. It's maybe not the version you liked, but when you're directing, you're producing, you're writing, you're involved heavily in the editing process. I'm assuming, so it's you have full control. Is that part of why you want to do it?
No, you know what? It wasn't. It was so when I get hired to just be an actor, my job is to just serve that story. So the producers, the directors, they have all the control. I come in, you've brought me in because you like my choices or my look, probably my choices,
Yeah.
and I come in and I do my thing. I have an insatiable appetite for knowledge and information. So whenever I would see other writers or I'd go for dinner with other writers, I'm like, this is such a cool thing. I want to learn how to do what you do. It's no different than like if I pick up a new sport. Like I remember the first time I picked up badminton, I was like, this is so cool. Or basketball or soccer. I was like, this is cool. I want to learn how to do it. But I've never wanted to just learn how to kind of do it. I hate kind of maybe sort of like it's always this great setup for failure. And I
Yeah.
and I always want to learn something in a way I'm like, no, I want to be good at this. Like
Yeah.
that's why I want to do it. Why else would I learn something?
Did you start your writing journey with Save the Cat? Was that
Yeah.
the first book?
Well, I would say that's when my professional writing started. So
Yeah.
I was always a writer, but honestly, like if I look back in hindsight, there was an arrogance. Earlier we talked about where I said I didn't want to be one of those have the right look or the luck actors. I think as a writer, I was trying to get lucky. Like I knew I had an original voice, I knew I was funny, and I had watched movies. So therefore, I must be a writer. And in
Mhm.
hindsight, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much. It doesn't take a lot to learn the science of how stories work. And once I did, and then was able to still apply those same organic elements, I've written for Hallmark, I've written for vertical movies, I've written for big networks, movies, TV shows, everything, because it was all just, oh, there's a science and a math and there's a business here. And once I really applied those same principles I had with my acting, everything blew up.
Wow. And then you still involved in sort of like I met you in sort of you're coaching me, you're like teaching me how to audition and stuff. I know the Story Institute. That are you still involved there? Are you still doing
Yeah.
the acting? Like that's once again I get back to that again. So you're doing that on top of it. So a couple things I have there. When you're dealing with other actors, especially like really enthusiastic younger actors, are you getting some of that energy? Is that driving you a little bit to be like, hey, this is that kind of like
A little bit, but part of it to me too, and again, not to keep harping on the same book, I feel like I work for, Stephen Covey here, but it's like, part of the seven habits is learn it, teach it, apply it. So selfishly, I always knew that if I could learn how to teach it, I would have to have the language to handle it in any situation. So because I've had to explain the same idea to like 12 different people with 12 different learning abilities or whatever it is. So when I'm on set now and a director and I aren't communicating, I have that same diversity and ability to translate or shift a thing. And my big thing is always helping people shift from external motivation to internal motivation. So, you don't need my approval. One of my favorite movies is Disney's Newsies. Most people will think that's a terrible film. I love Newsies. So I wouldn't, right there, right then and there, most people say, oh, I don't align with you creatively. You have terrible taste in film. Great. That's a
yeah.
great answer. But I also know the science of it. I know how to get there organically, how to get there technically. So apply that and then put your voice on that and you can have the same things.
Do you ever talk to the young actors and go, hey, you got to take the business side more seriously? Or do you just focus purely on get better as an actor?
No, it's actually the only thing I teach at the school. So I have amazing teachers that teach like voiceovers, scene
Damn
study,
right.
audition. I teach the career planning or the business side.
I honestly
That's
think
all
that's
I
the most
teach.
important. I think that's the most important
I
part.
do too.
It's just like that.
Yeah, it's not show lucky, it's not show friendship, it's show business.
Yeah, because
So
then you're just kind of floating around in this weird audition pool and there's no direction. You are just relying on luck. But if you take control where you can't control, treat it like a business, it's like exponentially your odds of success increase.
with it, and it's could you imagine like if the restaurant industry, if all the restaurateurs out there and all the chefs were like, I don't want to have anything to do with the business. I'm just going to show up and I'm going to cut some tomatoes or whatever and see what happens. Like they would all be out of business tomorrow. It's like any industry that ran that way, and I find it fascinating how this is a multi-billion-dollar industry several times over. How many people don't understand that it's a business and you own the damn business. You own the business.
Your agent must love you though. There's like you
Sometimes
sometimes I'm just like, well, they must love it. They have an actor who actually understands that aspect of it.
I do think it's advantageous when, and again, most actors don't refer to the relationship with their agent as a business to business
Yeah.
relationship. But I
Yeah.
feel like that's one of the unique things I do offer is that I understand this is we're doing it because we love it. We're good at it. We can get paid for it. Like it's the whole Japanese ikigai concept. It's like that's the secret to happiness.
So people watching this, some people are going to watch this because they know who you are. They know you from different shows and stuff. Other people are going to be watching this and they're on my channel. They're like, wait, we're just investing people, right? But they're going to Google you and they're going to find, like Once Upon a Time, all this stuff, all this anime stuff. But those are obviously successful projects. You're going to pop up first. Is there any project you ever done where you're like, this is awesome, but it just didn't get the recognition, the views, didn't get the exposure that you wish it did, but it's a really good project that maybe we can just talk about and why you thought it was good and why you thought it was a little bit different than all the other stuff you've done?
Yeah, I would say it's and again, it's probably like most businesses. It's like most of my highest profile projects probably weren't my highest paid projects. Like, I was one of the X-Men. I was on Dragon Ball Z. I did Hello Kitty. I did two versions of Stargate. Once Upon a Time for ABC. It was the biggest show in the world when we were at our peak. And those were good. They were awesome. They were super fun. But some of my more lucrative projects, or some of the ones that have given me a different opportunity to create more work, have been some of the smaller, lesser known projects, like writing for Hallmark, writing vertical dramas, writing feature films, coming in as a story editor for other production companies and building a reputation as somebody who really respects and honors story. And those are hundreds of projects that I've done like that. And those are the ones that are probably, in terms of my business, have created me more opportunity than being the guy from ABC or whatever.
Do you put those psychologically in a bucket when you're doing them? So like, let's say if I'm you, were you happy, the dwarf? Happy? That was
Yeah, I was happy
okay.
there.
So you're like, I look at that. If I'm you, I'm going, this is gonna be great for branding. Like I'm thinking this would be exposure, wide audience branding, fantastic. But then you do writing for Hallmark, perfect, great for networking and a consistent flow of income on the back end there. Like one's more like B2B, which is the Hallmark direct to the production studio. One's B2C, direct to consumer, right? More.
Yeah.
Are you doing a little bit of that when you're looking at it, or like do you consider that?
Yeah, I would say I don't want to, like, this is where I want to be all artsy and say, no, I just do it for, no, but at the back of my head, yeah, everything is a piece of the brand. Everything is a piece of what I've been trying to do here. And I've never separated the two, the business or the art.
You can
So
be super artsy and do that. I don't get why not. Why not just be the biggest artsy hippie on the planet and just be a killer businessman at the same time? There's nothing stopping you. I don't know why some people, especially like when I used to speak with actors, they'd be like, no, that's all I care about, the creative. And you look at them now, it's like, yeah, you couldn't monetize yourself because you did not understand any business at all. So you never went anywhere with your career, right? So
for sure.
I actually don't understand it. And I don't know why they think maybe you're selling out or something because you have business acumen. I just don't get it.
But I also think it's also a safety net for a lot of people that, if you always approach something with the expectation that you'll probably fail, you're probably right.
Yeah.
And if you walk in with this probably won't work, you're probably right. I'd probably do something else.
Or you're setting yourself up for reasons. I didn't get this because, and you always have someone to point your finger at. It's like, it's a numbers game. You didn't get it, but then you do something enough times, you eventually get it. As long as you keep improving as you attempt, right? You don't just stay stagnant in your skill level. You keep getting better.
And one of the tough things I think for a lot of actors, they don't understand every single actor that's had any level of success at every level, from the biggest movie star to the smallest just starting. All of us are, I'm sorry, one thing, all of us have a better resume of things we didn't get. You know what I mean? Like, like even Will Smith was supposed to be Neo in The Matrix. Eric Stoltz was supposed to be Marty McFly. Like Robin Williams was supposed to be the Joker, not Jack Nicholson. Like there's so like Christian Bale was told no on American Psycho like 8 times. Like they kept hiring somebody else and then going back to him, hiring somebody else going like every single one of us, Ryan Reynolds had a terrible Deadpool the first time he came out. Like every single one of it. I auditioned for Cyclops when I was on and I didn't get it. So I got Sunspot, which at first it felt like, oh, what a gut punch. And then I was like, holy cow, you ungrateful jerk. What a cool character you get to play. And it's like, and it's just realizing that every single one of us probably thought we were going to do something else. And we ended up doing this other thing. And it's been magical. You just never know what's going to hit. But if you work hard and smart, everybody hits. Everybody hits if you work hard and smart.
Is there any sort of character you think you've enjoyed playing more than another? Like, hey, if I could go back, I'd like to do that one again. Just keep doing it at least.
The one thing I know originally in Once Upon a Time, they had bigger story ideas for a bunch of us, and there was just too many characters. So we never got a chance. So there was a lot of comic relief that they discovered late in the series for my character. And I think had they had leaned into that earlier, it's the same thing I had on a show called Smallville. I met with one of the creators of Smallville like years after the show went off air. And he's like, oh, we didn't cast you till season 10. And everybody was like, that's the character we needed in season 1. We should have made him a regular. So I've had a couple fun. I like coming in with that thing and bringing the levity to some of these shows. So, but I could probably say almost every show I've ever done is I wish that we discovered it earlier.
I remember, because you've been acting since the 90s, right? Mm-hmm. Or early 2000s.
At least 90s. I'm just trying to figure out if it was the 80s, probably the 80s, late 80s.
When was that X-Files gold rush? Was that the late 90s when everybody was just like, I've talked to a lot of actors still around who are acting back in day, and they're like, that was a gold rush. Everything was filmed in Vancouver and everybody was just book everything. And the X-Files was in town and it was Hollywood North. Yeah. Is there a difference between back then and the industry right now in Vancouver? Is the money different? Like, is there just less opportunity? Is the pay different than it was back then? Like, what are the differences? Because everyone who I talk to from that era looks back nostalgically with a smile in their eye, like a twinkle. And then they're just like, not happy about what's happening right now.
There's a few things. First of all, there's also just expectations. Like I still remember, like the industry now is like $4 or $5 billion a year. So it's epic. I still remember when it cracked $1 billion and we thought, oh my gosh, that'll never happen twice. And it's like, I still remember that. That being said, I also, in the mid 90s, it was around the mid 90s, we were making money hand over fist. You'd get 2 or 3 job offers regularly. You'd turn this one down because the other one, it's like you get 2 or 3 job offers. You're like, which one has a better toy? Which one has more fun people to work with? Like it was so cool. But at the same time, I think there was more gratitude. And I feel like, we all basically work for scale, which is minimum wage now, which is still good. It's like $1,000 a day. And then you get your buyout, which is 105% of 1,000. Like it's still good money when you book, but we used to work for double scale, triple scale. Yeah. So, and that was pretty standard, or scale plus 50. Like there's all these great things. Nobody worked for minimum, and we used to all do commercials, but I feel like there's it's a combination of things. As soon as you created more platforms, you needed to find more cost-effective ways to create content. And we got greedy, and producers got greedy. And this is a business where both sides have thought with a win-lose mentality, and both sides feel like the other side has to lose for me to win. As soon as both sides get together one day and just wake up and say, you know what, there's a win-win here where you can have more and I can have more. We just got to talk to each other differently. As soon as we stop being enemies on these darn conversations, and even here, like there's things that our union fights for that it's like, guys, you're fighting for outdated things. I'd be like trying to get a bigger piece of the DVD sales. Like nobody's making DVDs. Like it's a stupid thing to fight for.
There's a couple of things. Like when I think about it now, I go, streaming changed the game altogether. Before, back in the 90s, people watched television ads. Like they would say, that means, that television show is charging premium for that spot, which means I'm assuming that money trickles down into production to the actors. So suddenly you are getting triple. But if they're putting something on Fox now, it's probably getting more views on Fox online than it is on broadcast. Online advertising exponentially cheaper than broadcast. Do you think some of it, there's greed, but some of it's simple economics of like, it's just so much cheaper digitally for advertising, so they can't even pay you more because the margins are slimmer? Or do you But I'm going to keep going on this a little bit. I also know people at the top of business inflate things, being like, oh, we're making a lot less money than you think we're making, but they're actually making more so they can pay you less. So I think there's like a mix of both, lying plus the margins are a little bit worse, but not as bad. That's it.
Yeah, I would say that, I'd say the guys are making more, but I'd also say the risk is higher. So I'd say they're losing on some and trying to make up for it in others. There's also a thing, when you used to release a film, you didn't have to make all your money when it released in the theater. You get a DVD, and it was almost like a second release of the film. So
Yeah.
you make money on the DVD sales. And the same thing, like when, it's only 13 channels on TV, there was a lot of money in the advertising, so the networks could afford to pay more. That being said, I will also say that I think we're in an interesting time where it's going to continue to evolve. I think people are going to continue to watch movies on their cell phones, which is interesting, and that's a whole new world. I think that I buy every subscription channel you can get, and I hate them all.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how to watch TV anymore. Like if somebody says, hey, do you want to watch this movie? I'm like, okay, let's all sit down for 40 minutes and Google how to find this movie on which platform. And it's, I do think eventually it'll all go back to an all-in-one spot. I don't know, if the local telecommunications, the Teluses, the Rogers, whatever it is, I don't know if they'll figure it out. I think they're trying, but how do you find a way to let us all just have all our stuff back again? I don't think we'll ever go back to scheduled viewing. I think on demand is what it's going to be. But how do we do it or how do you create a way where people have to watch it in a certain timeline to have those water cooler talks?
Only sports. Yep. Only sport. And that's why sports charges premiums for advertising. That's why they're signing Netflix signed a crazy deal with WWE for $1 billion something for WWE, right? Because there's we'll put them live programming. UFC is negotiating contracts for whatever they want because live sports is the only thing that gets people to actually pay attention at 6 p.m. Even news, you'd think it'd be live news, but people are going on X now, Twitter, and getting the news from YouTube or whatever. The whole dynamic has changed there. And I had a question sort of regarding Netflix, but I forgot what it is, but I'll get back to it. But have you done anything that's gone direct onto Netflix and stuff? I got programming on Amazon Prime with my face on it. My goal is to take over the internet. I want to be on YouTube, Amazon Prime, put me everywhere. But do you have anything that I think anyone watching this can be hey, I want to go watch something on Amazon Prime or Netflix?
Yeah, I got one of my features that I did is on Amazon Prime and Apple TV. It's called 3017. It's number 37 then teen. I wrote, acted, and directed this film, and it was super fun. We actually just got the rights back, so we're actually going to be selling it to a new network or reselling it to those networks.
Can you walk me through that? I've always been curious about that. What's that whole process? I hear stories hey, I wrote a script and then a studio bought it and then they're distribution, in layman's terms for me, what's that process? Can you just walk me through it so I can understand it?
Yeah. So there's two basically forms. So you either have your mainstream traditional sales. And I've done a bunch of those. So I write a script. I've actually written a bunch for Hallmark. So they give me a bunch of money based on a script idea. We go back and forth. They give me money for each draft and then they might make it or they might not. And that's fine. And that's just a transactional relationship. And then there's other ones where I'll write a script and I'll seek private financing in investors, or I'll invest myself, and we make it and we release it you get it written, you get it financed, you shoot it, and then you get it distributed. And there's actually, again, it's no different than many of the other things we've talked about here. If you approach your project, too many independent filmmakers just trying to make their cool art piece, and that's really neat for your mom's fridge. But if you're not making something that has an expectation of a return or has an expectation of, having more than just your vision of what you'd like to see, that's, make a selfie video and play it over and over again. You have to find something that other people are going to want to watch and pay for.
So beforehand, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to write this script. It's going to appeal to this audience. It's going to cost us X amount to make, produce, edit. The return will probably be this much. And is that what you're telling distribution? Be hey, here's a document we have for you.
Part of it is I always come up with so for me, again, it's never separate, right? So I come up with a movie that I want to make because I'm passionate about this idea or I'm passionate about this story. At the same time, I think, what are the universal themes here that have a wider, more diverse base? How do I make this so that in the movie 3017 I was talking about earlier, it's just the whole concept of if I knew then what I know now. It's a bunch of 37-year-olds that go back and do one more month of high school because it's I'd kill high school at 37. And that's basically the idea is I'd kill high school at 37.
Yeah.
And most people would.
Yeah.
But also, most people would kill anything if they could go back 20 years later. Like, even when I was in the 12th grade, if I could go back to kindergarten, I would have slayed. I would have killed kindergarten as a 17-year-old, you know? But all of us have that universal theme. If I knew then what I know now, what would I do differently? What would I just re-embrace? Like, so it's got a lot of universal themes in it. So I knew that would appeal. And then on a financial side, it was like, what actors do you have it that people are going to see that face on the poster, and they're like, oh, I like that guy in that movie or that girl from that thing. So
Yeah.
there's, those sort of business aspects to it too.
You talk about going back to high school when you're 37. Is there anything at the beginning of your career, when you started at all this, that you sort of wish you knew, but you wouldn't have even listened to because you wouldn't have understood it unless you went through the experience? You know?
All of it. Like I often, the real trippy spot is because I'm so hyper aware of, if I knew at age 17 what I know now, oh my gosh, I'd be a billionaire a million times over. The sad thing is I'm also hyper aware. If I knew what I'm going to know 20 years from now, I'd be killing this moment in time.
Yeah.
Kill it. And I already know the math that I just need to know what I know 20 years from now, right now. If I
Yeah.
knew that right now, I'd kill it. But then there's also that really, what's nice about that is knowing I can't go back in time. I have to embrace that all those experiences made me exactly who I am today. And it's the whole success is a journey, not a destination concept, where I realize you just gotta, if you commit to being successful and understand that success looks differently at different stages of the process of your life, it gives you a different level of gratitude for where you're at.
A little bit back to that Hollywood North thing. I always hear, and a little bit about this is a lot of productions now are going to other places outside of Vancouver because of taxes. More states in the US are giving taxes. I know a little bit about that, right? That's why people are going away from LA. Is anything like that happening in Canada?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think we actually just recently increased our tax incentives to like 40%. So basically what it is that if you come here, you pay all the money up front, but then you get money back once the production's done. So you get an incentive. And that's why you get a multi-billion-dollar industry in Vancouver. The truth is, yes, there are places, Louisiana,
That's the one I was thinking of.
Atlanta, Austin. There's all these great places that are creating these tax incentives. But I think what people, we live in a society right now where it's so easy to lean into self-victimization or the world's against me and it's all, the sky is falling. But the truth of the matter is yes, we have more places we're making projects and we have more platforms. Like we have more opportunities for sale.
Yeah, that's true.
So it'd be neat if, it would be really cool if all the movies had to be just made at my house.
Yeah.
I'd be so rich and so lazy, but it's like, that's not what it is. And that being said, I think when you're in industry, you're still like, well, yeah, gosh, we only made 4 billion this year. That's pretty good, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean take the foot off the gas. It's pretty good. Nobody's out to get you. You're fine.
I remember what question I had regarding Netflix. So I saw actors in the entertainment industry go on strike, and I think it's happened a couple times about distribution rights on streaming content, and how so one actor from The Office saw an interview with him being like, I'm on The Office, I was making a ton of money, but now I'm on Netflix and I get paid nothing off it. And I only watch The Office on Netflix. Like and I watch it probably every day. I watch an episode at some point. What happened? Explain that again, once again, layman's terms. And what happened with that? Are you getting paid now?
The tough thing is that we have all this fancy language, and originally when everything came out, we just called it new media, and new media meant not platform. So the truth is that I feel like we are still in an awkward phase of figuring it out. I was trying to explain to my kids the other day that I used to drive around in my car with a giant case of CDs, and and that's how we used to pick music. And if you want to listen to a song, you got to drop $20 on the CD.
That big folder.
Yeah, the big folder. And it's like, so, and now everything's free. Like when a song comes out, it's free. And where do you listen to it? Wherever the heck I want, whenever I want. I do think that we have to find a better way to monetize the stuff digitally. I don't know the answer. I'm not the guy to find the answer, but I can say the problem is every artist should be paid, whether you're a musician, a singer, actor, director, producer. Like everybody's got to find a way. I don't know what the algorithm is. The sad thing is I bet you there's probably 10 people out there who actually know. We got to just find out who the heck those guys are.
Here's what they can track. They can track watch time. So they know how many hours The Office is ranking in. They can track new subscribers whenever they bring a new show to Netflix of how many new subscribers. And then they can track retention, lifetime value. Marketing guy here. So they know that The Office converted into retention. So when we have The Office on, we don't lose X amount of subscribers. When we bring a new show on, we gain. And when we gain that user, they stayed with us for 6 months at $20, $120. If they want to do the math, especially with AI now, get rid of the accountants, they could trickle it down to then the actor gets X amount. It could literally, they could probably bring it down to the penny. I think that language you talked about is still my thing of like playing stupid, or is a lot more complicated than it really is in order to save some money, make more money, increase their margins, stuff like that, because they can do that, I guess.
Well, and I also think the danger is, the tough thing is that I feel like often when you talk to the creative side of people, the people on the creative side of things, as soon as they find out there is math, they want a bigger piece of it. So it's easier to just tell them, it's math, man, it's too hard, and it just shuts the conversation down. But and again, this goes back to the win-lose mindset. I feel like if we all approached it differently, and again, like I've been on the side where, you know, you have to take all the risk up front. That needs to be recognized and appreciated. And at the same time, you can't just have something suddenly be worth nothing because it's on a subscription channel. And also, you gotta find a way to. Again, I'm actually pro commercials. In my house, like everybody else is too young in my house. I love commercials. It's when I go get a new bowl of cereal. I love it. It's the best time.
Yeah, we've in Stockholm though. We grew up with it, right? We don't even know. It's like,
well, that's the thing. Yeah, like everybody else is so like ready to skip ad, and I'm like, don't skip the ad. Somebody put a lot of work into that. You have to buy their thing, but watch it.
What do you think is going to happen to like the movie theater industry? Because before COVID, I was legitimately going to the theaters every other weekend. Like a movie comes out, I'm watching, and I literally, it's like one of my favorite things to do on the goddamn planet. It's just like, it's an experience, right? And I would go all the time for everything that was even remotely interesting to me. COVID hits, all streaming, even my conditioning changed. Me as a lifelong movie lover going to theaters, it was like, I think I'll just watch it on streaming. Now I'm only going for something where I know I have to have surround sound. It's like a crazy Marvel movie. But like The Accountant 2 came out, right? I love The Accountant 1, right? But I still kind of was like, you know, I got kids. I was like, I'll just wait till it comes out on streaming. But normal Gary would have gone to the theater pre-COVID. What do you think is going to happen to movie theater industry? Because like I said, that was for a lot of movies, even moment, right? Like you said, they made money on the back end after DVD sales, but now they're not even doing that. It's like, what's happening with, what do you think it's going to turn into, especially for the younger generation, TikTok generation? Is it experience only? Once a year we go, we treat like this weird novelty thing, and it's only us oldies who are like going there being like, no, we all should go to the theater? Or what do you think is going to happen? It's your 2 cents.
My prediction is that it will be revolutionized in a way that we're not even fathoming. So, you know, like I think about, I'm still old enough to know people used to go watch, you know, silent pictures, and somebody play piano, and they would just watch a silent picture with somebody playing piano in front of the screen.
Be like 3,000 years old, like 150.
What the hell? But I also think that, you know, first of all, like concession prices is ridiculous. I don't care what your costs are. You're selling it at too much. I can't give you $50 for a bucket of popcorn. I don't care what your costs are. If you can't sell it to me at a reasonable price, find something else to sell. The other thing is, I do think you're going to end up, the two things that I do predict, I think you're going to satisfy people's senses differently. I think you're going to have wind machines. You've already experimented with D-Box and vibrating chairs. I think you're going to smell the movie. You're going to feel the movie. Everything's going to satisfy your senses differently in the big thing. And I also think you're going to go with more choose your own adventure. Like the way you could make movies now, or if you put like a fastest finger, like where you want this movie to go, it would incentivize people to bring more friends to the cinema, because you can determine how a movie's going to play out, and you can go see the same movie 4 times and see 4 different movies. And I think that's where you're going to see movie theaters eventually go.
Interactive.
Let it be a choose your own adventure. Let me smell the movie. Like we've already got it, you know, like fly over Canada, or like California Adventure. You've got all these things where I can feel it, and I can feel the wind. I can smell the orange groves, all the things. I can choose my story. Like Black Mirror had an episode where you could do that, where you could, you know, watch the movie, show a bunch of different
Bankcraft or something. I forgot what it's called.
Yeah, Bettercraft. So, or
something better. It'd be in it. That's all I know.
It'd be in it. But I do feel like maybe I'm way off, but I do think you're going to see us do movies different, because it has to go back to being experiential. Like right now, it's too expensive, and you only go if it's like Marvel or Harry Potter or
That's
something
exactly what it is.
epic. And it's like, I want to go back to, like, what gives me hope. My youngest or my oldest, she's 13, but she likes to see scary movies at the theater because that's a fun thing to do with her friends. So I do
Mhm.
think there's still a market for that.
I wonder, you know how young kids now will be like the 90s was so cool. Now they have like weird 90s haircuts and stuff.
Yeah.
Is there an element of that? Let's go to the theater. That's what it's like, that nostalgic, whatever.
I do, and they've just got to find a way to make it, again, more affordable. And
That's affordability. Yeah.
yeah,
Ticket
affordable
prices.
is but I think that's the world, right? Like the world has an affordability problem.
Yeah.
It's just, I take my kids out to McDonald's and I feel like it's the same price if I took them out to the keg. And it's like, oh my, and the
Oh,
keg would be like a mortgage. So I'm like,
yeah.
and I get that everybody's struggling, but the world's not in harmony right now in terms of just affordability.
I look at revenue margins, a lot of these large companies and stuff, no one's struggling. And they keep saying inflation, inflation. I'm paying like $6 for a cheeseburger. Like I'm dying here when I get Happy Meals for my kids. I'm like, what is going on? Like you don't go to McDonald's anymore now for a cheap meal. You go there to spend some real money.
Yep.
Maybe for convenience now because there's like a drive-through, like you just have to go there. But it's crazy. I don't fully believe the inflation hype. I think some of it's just used by corporations to be like, let's just keep up increasing the prices even more than last year. About that, I'm coming back a little bit to like acting, but this is an investing channel. Do you do any investing or anything like that? Like, how do you, like, we talk about business management. Do you do financial management? Like, do you think about that? Like, hey, when it's all said and done, I don't feel like doing anything anymore. I'll just act willy nilly because I just don't feel like getting up to go on set. I don't want to produce anything. I want to lounge. Do you think about, hey, I have this whole stockpile of investments that I can just like milk and just relax?
Yeah, I've got an exit strategy. Mine's actually really humble. Mine's, I own a nice home in North Vancouver. My plan is to pay it off, and that's a huge asset, and that becomes my kid's inheritance. So
Yeah.
here's a couple of $1 million, like
Yeah.
more than I got. So here's the house, and then I think about just having enough money in the bank where I could live off 3 to 5% interest, cover all my expenses, and then that's added to the kid's inheritance. So that's my exit strategy. It's not complex.
It
It's
isn't.
not grandiose, but it means I just want to, I don't expect to have bigger aspirations. Like I don't have the travel bug or anything like that.
Yeah,
I
same.
just want to have enough money, eat the food I like, go to the places I like to go to, leave my kids some money so that they can get a good head start when I'm gone.
That's the one thing I talk like I could on the channel probably dive deep into like buy this stock, but I never do. I always go, hey, you have a tax-free Advantage account in Canada called the TFSA and you have an RRSP. Hey, you have that tax-free TFSA, buy this one ETF called VFV. It's just like a stock and it covers the S&P 500. That increases, right? That's all it does, right? You buy it in your TFSA, covers the top 500 US companies. It has an average annual return of 11%. So if you just walked away from it, came back, let's say you're 20 years old, you walked away, put max at your TFSA at $7,000 a year, right? And you said, that's where my one investment I do a year, bought that one thing. The calculations come out to like $2.8 million. It's probably more. And I think those calculations for someone who starts in like their early 30s, even if you start in your 40s, you're still walking away with like $1 million. And so it's like, I'm like, and then I'm like, God damn it. I wish I knew this when I was 20 because I could have worked a minimum wage job from 18 to now. Never worked anymore. Talking about McDonald's, I could have worked at McDonald's the whole time. Just maxed out my TFSA every single year, bought one stock, and I would be a millionaire. I could have retired right now just working at McDonald's. So like I have this financial channel where I just say, do this one thing over and over. And I have like 50 videos telling everyone, buy this one thing because I realize that's all it takes. And the reason why I harp on this is because as soon as I realized that, it freed me up to do other shit with my life. It's like I can do acting now and I can repeatedly fail until I get success because I'm not worried that I'm going to be a broke 65-year-old. I'm going to have this nest egg of millions of dollars. I can take chances with my personal business. I can create a podcast. I can do all this stuff, take real risk because if it doesn't work, it's fine. I know I'm still loaded in the next 10, 15 years. It's like, that's kind of back to when we go to financial responsibility for actors to understand the business. It's like set up these kind of foundational things in how you operate, right? So you're like, okay, great. I work minimum wage. I want to become an actor. All right. I got to get better at this. I'm going to allocate X amount for my audition training classes or just to get better, right? Headshots, maintaining my business, right? That's your business expense. But then like any extra money goes towards rent, utilities. Then I'm going to take X amount and throw it on my TFSA, dump it into that one thing that Gary said, VFV, and walk away and forget I even know it exists. And I'm golden. And I just rinse and repeat that for the next 20 years. And I'm going to be in this really crazy scenario in 20 years from now. I'm going to have a ton of money, be hyper successful because I was registered regimented. And it's like, I don't think people understand that's all it is. It's like, do you have that discipline to do that boring shit? Because it's not sexy getting good at shit. It's just like repetitive good habits, you know?
For sure. Well, and that's like in my head, like my sort of magic thing was pay off the mortgage, find something that only gives me a 5% return and have $1 million in the bank and just see if I could live mortgage free of, 50 grand a year. I'm like, and then I got 3 million in the bank or whatever my house increases. I'm like that. I'm golden.
Talk to me off camera after this. We'll talk. I literally will tell you the exact roadmap where you want 5% return, man?
Yeah.
Way better. Okay. I'll walk you through. It's so, you'll be like, shit, I wish I knew that like beforehand. And, yeah, just trust me. We'll talk. I don't think people want to hear my thing for you, but I'm just saying off camera, I'll talk to you about it. You'll be really happy with that. But like now back with acting, is there anything you feel like you haven't done yet with it? Because I really quickly, once again, guys, voiceover he's done film, television, he produced, written, like you've ticked a lot of stand-up comedy, ticked a lot of boxes. Is there something where you're like, shit, I wish I could do that, I'm working towards doing it, it's a skill set I don't have, something where you feel like you just haven't?
Yeah, I would say, I've been really lucky. So my last voice gig, I did all the Kakamora in Moana 2. Like I was one of the guys all the coconut guys. So I've been really lucky to do a lot of different voiceover, video games, movies, TV shows, cartoons, Marvel, Disney, Netflix, all the things. So I feel like I've kind of done all those boxes. The thing that I've always wanted, I think part of it is you're either going uphill or you're plateaued or going downhill. You know what I mean? And basically if you plateau, that's worse than going downhill.
Yeah.
So for me, my next thing, what I've been aiming for since I was 20 is my own studio. Like, I look at guys like Adam Sandler, I look at like Happy Gilmore, I look at Tyler Perry. I look at all these people who are like, what they do, they wake up in the morning, they self-finance or they have distribution models in place or finance models in place where they and their friends do cool stuff together. And that's how they spend their days. So they don't even have to work. Like a guy like Sandler doesn't have to work. A guy like Sandler gets to work. It's because he set himself up that way. And because he set himself up, he knew his market. He put really smart people beneath him or on his team, and he put people that you could trust. It's super easy.
Do you have a core group of people you sort of surround yourself with, core group of actors, writing friends and stuff like that you sort of just do everything with?
Yeah, like my teachers that I have now at the school right now, like, these are some of the best people in the business. They're smart, they work a lot. The people that work on my business side, they're smart, they're experts in what they do. Like it's, I have people that, are some of the best in the field in their respective categories, and it's what allows me to do what I do.
Because people talk about that a lot. Like it's who you surround yourself with, right? Will dictate sort of how fast you get to your destination.
Yeah.
You clearly believe in that. Like how much has that actually affected you think your success? Like kind of cultivating that little micro community around yourself of people who, have the skill set you're looking for. Maybe they fill a void that you have, but also have your back. They're not going to screw you over. Like I think that's a big aspect.
Yeah, and I think a part of it is it's the reality and not chasing the like the MLM potentials and all these sorts of things. And it's about, I find that when I have when somebody's here to take care of my finance, like my bookkeeping or my sales or whatever their role is, if they do it well, it means I don't have any bandwidth really allocated there, and my bandwidth is now focused on creative, family. Also, I know everybody's job, and I could do most of the jobs that I have, but the thing is, I hire people who could do it as good or better than I would. And that allows me the freedom to focus on what I want to focus on.
I think that's a game changer whenever you're sort of running your own company, because like I say, back to you are your own company in acting. Like I firmly believe this, you are the product, you are selling you. And sometimes it takes a team to manage that product because you're doing a lot of different stuff, but especially in business. And I know from my marketing aspect, it's knowing how to do everyone's job as good or almost as good as them. Because what it also does is, I know when I've worked for other people, I'd be like, Gary, do this. And I'd be like, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, it's like, I know it's a really slow, inefficient way of doing whatever it is. Or I know it's just something they read in a book and they're parroting back to me, and I'm just going to go do it differently anyways. But when I know that there's someone talking to me like, oh, they've done this before, right? I'm actually getting real tangible stuff. They're not just talking out of their ass. Changes the dynamic where you go, okay, Michael's telling me I should change my script this way or tweak my line this way. It's like, it's very different coming from someone knows what the hell they're talking about than someone who just read it, learned it, but never has actually applied any of this stuff.
Well, yeah, like I own a new school now than the one you would have gone to. So we parted ways. And it's funny, like in the old school, my role was chief artistic officer. And then we had a CFO and all these other people. It was weird. I had a CFO that I kept asking, can we just get these numbers, these reports? This would be really effective in understanding where our money's going and where it's been and all these things. And I remember time after time, what you're asking for, it's not possible. You just can't do it. And I was like, there has to be, like, I'm not smart enough to figure it out until I had to be smart enough to figure it out. So when I
Yeah.
started my own company, I was like, I don't want to be in a position where my money guy doesn't know how the heck the money works. So
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to learn how to do it. And I built my first system out of Excel spreadsheets and YouTube videos on how to work the damn Excel spreadsheets. My company now works at a level of efficiency that dwarfs what they used to do with
Yeah.
these, university educated finance guys. I'm like, oh, you just had to look at it differently. You were looking at it from the wrong angle, and you were afraid to just do what needed to be. Like, what was the problem? What's the information you need? Start there.
You're a good example. Like you run super efficiently now, but when I first met you, you're a good example because I've watched you from a distance scale. Like you're good at it. I've seen your case study. When I first met you, you were in Burnaby. I went to your apartment, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I went into your living room. There was a couple of us and it was great. You're close by me and I went to you and I think you had a bunch of good reviews and stuff, right? So I went to you, you started there. Then in no time, next thing I know, I'm going to, I think Shoreline Studios. And then you elevate because you're like, oh, I'm getting too many people. I got to get to a bigger space.
Yeah.
You effectively did business 101, like following the fundamentals of like supply and demand and just scaling into it. And then I check back like, now he's got his own like full out operation. It's like, and then even with your roles, I like watch you scale larger and larger roles. I'm like, this guy's got to, that's why. So I was smart. I knew it from the moment I met him. Like, this guy's got business acumen. And that was my thing. But I watched you scale. And I think a lot of people watching is like, they'll look at you now, be like, yeah, this guy, and it is deceiving. And I get on the problem like, oh yeah, he's charming. He's well spoken. He's got a big resume. Things just come easier or whatever. It's like, no, man, I met this guy. He was, at the time I didn't meet you, you were actually already established as an actor and as a voiceover artist, but you just started with the teaching aspect, but you scale that up so goddamn fast and efficiently as well. It's just, I just want to let people know, like, everyone starts somewhere and you basically took something you're already hyper good at. And that's another emphasis. It's like, get really good at one goddamn thing. You get good at one damn thing, you can start charging for that one damn thing, no matter what it is. Michael just happened to be very good at acting and voiceover work, right? Built and established himself there. And then went, oh, okay, I can actually leverage this in other ways, which is naturally goes into coaching, right? And training in that skill set. But like, I think anyone watching this is like, ask yourself, am I so good at one thing? If you're not, just get good at one thing first. Before you do anything else, just get very good at one thing. Doesn't even care. Doesn't even matter what it is. Just be very good at that one thing. And then monetization happens afterwards and you scale up. But like I said, you're a really good example of starting from somewhere, being like, what's the most efficient way? Right now, let's just bring people to my place. Margins are really cheap. I'm not renting a place, right? Bring you in, we charge so much. More people coming in, I can maybe charge more, or I get more students. That'll make up the difference for having Shoreline, so on and so on and so on. And so if you're a business owner watching this, sort of applies to everything. The way you did it applies to literally every business.
For sure. Like when I work with actors, one of the things I've always telling people, because you ask an actor what kind of roles should be good at, and they're like, I can play anything. And I'm like, you can't. Like, first, be something to someone before you try to be everything to everyone. And if you're not something to someone, then nobody, I even did it with my writing, like with my writing, where I really locked in. I got really good at comedic television writing. That's what I got really good at. And what is really good at it was having a unique voice and structure. And then what ended up happening is movies, dramas, Hallmark, they were like, we like good structure, we like unique voices, and I was able to multiply those skills to other things. I was able to take those same core dynamics when I was something to someone and then amplify those and scale those to different genres. And it's the same thing with everything I've done in this business. It's just with cameras. Like you asked why I became a writer. It's the same reason I became a director and a producer. Like I now can make a movie even if I'm the only one who likes it, because I know how to do everything.
Yeah. Do you have the core things you're good at now? Like I can write comedy. I know you actually know what kind of roles you can play. Like you probably read something, go like, oh yeah, I can do this. This is like well in my wheelhouse. Do you ever on your own time, not making money, write yourself a short script that's like horror just to flex those muscles to like open up that side of your brain? Do you even do that, or do you just stick to the thing you're good at?
No, I got to a place where I actually only want to do what I'm good at. Like I think when we're young, we want to have this super diverse resume. We want all those things. I'm really good at being like outside the box, like Black Mirror, Twilight Zones. I'm really good at making people look at the world from a different lens, change your paradigm, see the world differently. And I'm really good at being a level of comedy that most people are afraid to go to. And it's just, so those are my two favorite things. They get my best reaction. It brings me the most joy. It's what I like watching when I do. I don't like watching myself, but if I did, that's what I would watch. So
how much of that has to do with also time? You only have so many hours in the day. And you got to pick and choose what you actually allocate it to and what moves the needle.
Yeah, I would say also it's like, well, again, probably no different than starting a business. It's like if you start a project, it's going to be a bunch of years of your life. So you have
Yeah.
to ask yourself, is it enough to just have a project, or is it a
Mm,
project that I want to be a part of? So
yeah.
for me, I really like, that's why I get offered to do things all the time. I'm like, I don't have the time to allocate to that. It'd be really neat, but it's not how it would cost me too much time, and the return on the investment wouldn't be there. Like the value of my time is too expensive. I need to be feeling joy, feeling purpose.
Another thing that this is a big pivot is I was doing some research on you, and you actually do foundational work with the auto. I've been listed here because the CIDP foundation work. I want to hear just more about that. I just want you to talk about it because
Sure.
it sounds like a really great thing you're doing, and I just want to hear about it personally.
So I've been involved in a lot of different charities throughout my whole life, and again, as professional storytellers, our big thing is just recreating the human experience. And I find that people who have a sense of charity or volunteer elements in their life, we just have a different way we see the world. And I don't flex the thing very often, but like for GBS CIDP, so I was the international spokesperson. I guess technically I still am for the youth internationally. It's a super rare disease, and not enough people know about it. And so I go visit with patients, or I go to symposiums and I meet with the different, researchers and doctors and things, and we find new ways to educate the world, or find better ways to make people's lives easier that have these conditions. And I've done that with, lot. I did it with inflammation when I got sick. I've done it with cancer. I've done it with ALS. I've done it with a lot of different things. If something touches my life or I get connected to it in a different way, there's probably been about 15 or 20 different organizations that I'm either still active with, or I have Downtown Eastside Women's Center. And that was always one that was a big one for me. And there's, just elements of, I just like connecting to people differently. And I like, I'm a really big believer that we all are of the same value and the same level.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I do charity work or volunteer work, I just find myself really sitting in that differently. Yeah,
Food for the soul. It's good
it,
for your soul.
it is. And it's not something that, and again, like I try not to get all preachy with it, or and it's not for other people. It's for me. It's a thing I do for me, for my own humanity, and for the people I care about. So, yeah, I get involved with a lot of those things.
So you've been doing that for a while then. You just sort of been involved in charity throughout your whole career. You've just been carving time out for it from the get-go.
It was my ex-wife is the one who gets all the credit for that. Like, she was like, you can have a different voice in this world if you want to.
Yeah.
So she's the one, full credit to her for getting me more involved in things, and whatever time or energy or money it cost me, the return on it was amplified 100 times. Like I became a better person. I learned who real people are, and I'm grateful for that. I think everybody should do it.
I think, yeah, that's a really great message. And I think I know there's some people watching being like, I'd love to do charity. And I think a lot of people, when they talk about charity, go, wait, when I make $1 million, I'm going to donate to this charity. I'm
Yep.
going to then get active. But then they're kind of waiting on a moment of action to get involved. I think I'm also one of those people where like, hey, and I think I always have an out as well. Like, hey, I got 2 kids. I'm busy. It's hard. How am I going to, like you talking about like helping with the women's shelter, doing all this, like you're carving out time. So am I just bullshitting myself? I'm probably sure I can make time for it. One thing I always thought, this is my perception. I don't know what you think about this. A low hanging fruit of charity is just be a little bit less shitty to other people, which
Yeah.
is be patient with other people. So if someone is giving you their worst, just assume like they're probably going through something. I'll just be mum about this. Or when someone cuts you off in traffic, don't honk your horn and go nuts. Just let them cut you off and go about your day. I feel like those little differences is like the best starting point. It's a form of charity of like just trying to make the world a little bit better in that little way, but you not going mental on them in traffic. They're not going to have a reaction. Their day just got a little bit better. Someone freaks out at you. You're not fighting back with them, just being like, hey, clearly something's going on here. Right? I think if you're someone who's like, I don't have the time for it, I think that's a starting point, right? Just how you behave in the world.
I would say it's the same thing. Like when we're early in life, a lot of people have the things, I'm going to have kids when I'm ready. I'm going to do this when I'm ready. And I can't remember the exact saying, but it was kind of like, if you're not ready to make today day one, you're probably not going to ever do it one day. Like it's just, you have kids, whether you're ready or not. You do this, whether you're ready or not. Because the truth is most of us aren't ready when we do the thing. Nobody sits around saying, oh, I finally have all the time and the money in the world. Now I get to try that thing I've wanted to take. That's not how that's not how,
Yeah.
and if it's not a risk, then there's no value to it. If it has no value, then what the heck are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. This is a hard shift, but after you got diagnosed, did you do any changes to just overall well-being and how you took care of yourself in general?
Yeah.
Did you start considering longevity more and be like, hey, I kind of don't want to exit anytime soon. There's a different way of eating, living that I maybe you weren't doing before. Is any of
Yeah,
that?
I would say there's a few things. Like one of them is probably the biggest one is my mental health and my stress.
Yeah.
I had a lot of, I'm a big personality, and I've had lots of people attack me and take shots, and you just get this. This is what happens if you have any level of success, and
Really quickly, you are an easy target though. Like you
yeah,
are a big target, and you're sort of everywhere. You are very vocal as a human being. Right? Like
yeah.
you get to go and you talk. So like I could, yeah, I see that, but that comes with the territory.
Yeah, and but I also think anybody who spends 2 minutes with me realizes it always
Yeah.
comes from a good place, and it doesn't,
Yeah.
and it never attacks anybody. It's just I'm not afraid to have, I had one American producer refer to me as somebody who doesn't know his place, and so I was supposed to be subservient as a Canadian actor.
Yeah.
And you're right, I
Yeah.
don't know my place. I actually do firmly believe we all belong, and I do believe in logic, and I do believe in kindness, and I do believe in inclusivity. I believe in all the things. So if it rubs people the wrong way, I've let that be their problem, not mine. I read something the other day that was like, what was it? It was like weak people focus on revenge, strong people focus on forgiveness, and intelligent people focus on ignoring. And I'm trying to be intelligent. I'm just trying to not, I don't allocate I only have so much energy in this world. I don't allow it to focus on negativity or fear. I try to just be the kindness that I want to see back and try to be a mirror for what I want to get back in this world.
I want to, when I say these words, like when I say, okay, this is Michael Coleman, established actor, established voiceover artist. He production studio, mentor, coach, great father, husband, all these things. Am I just saying a list? What do you feel when you think of this? How do you view yourself when I could just read that rap sheet?
Yeah, I think of myself as I consider myself a person of character. I look at, when I grew up, my granddad and my grandmother and like I had some really lovely people in my, words like courage, trust, loyalty, hard work, like they all meant different things. And it was really ingrained in me early that those are really important. And, you get to determine what kind of life you live, and you have to look in the mirror every day. So who do you want to look back at? And I want to be somebody who is like I know people who know me know that if you need me, I'm just there. People who know me know that I'm going to care. They know like I think people know what they get when they get me.
Do you think living by code? Because my wife gets annoyed by this. I go, hey, I live by a code. I
Yeah,
call it
yeah.
The Gary code. It's
I
like we
love
always
it.
we always tell the truth. We never step over other people. Like it's just like
Yeah,
regimented. Like I grew up watching like Lord of the Rings. So I'm like
yeah.
Aragorn. If Aragorn wasn't gonna do it, I'm not gonna do it. So, but then a lot of times it's like it can hold you back from certain opportunities because maybe you're too vocal in a scenario where it's better to just shut up and not say because you're like, uh-oh, or you're not willing to stomp that other person out to get ahead. You're like, I'll just take the longer route because I don't want to screw anybody over. And talking to you, and I've known you for a long time, you have a sort of set of codes you follow. Has it hindered you? But
Oh,
also,
without question. It's, like this is an industry of the best people in the world and the worst people in the world and nobody in the middle. And there's a thing where, there's a desperation that creates a bit of a sheep mindset or a fear mindset. And, like there was this massive cult that was around in the mid 2000s, like 2012, 2015, and they tried to recruit me left, right, and center. They knew that I had a big voice. They knew that I had people that would listen to what I would say, and I never did it. Like I took the lunches and I was like, because these are all friends of mine that were in the cults. And I was like, guys, I'm just not going to do it. It's like transparency through, and it ended up costing me. It cost me opportunities. It cost me reputational currency. It cost me all these things because I didn't join the damn cult. But to this day, anybody who knows me knows he sacrificed a lot for principle. He sacrificed a lot because he's somebody who believed in being a good person and his word meant something, family meant something. And honestly, I'd rather be that guy. I'd rather be the guy who lost those things because I was holding dear to what's really true.
it's that tribal culture, either part of the tribe or not part of the tribe. And then if you're sort of like on your own, you can be ostracized. I mean, like, all right, we're not going to work with them. And yeah, and I guess, yeah, in this industry, especially in business as well, people control the levers. They can control your access to opportunity. But at the same time, let's talk about the positive here. You attract really great people. And people stick around and you attract the right type of people. The people, I think it's nice to know 1,000 people, but you sort of only need to know a handful when shit hits the fan.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. Yeah, and if people work with me, it's going to be a good project, and it's probably going to make money. Like that's what you know.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good project. It's going to make money, and you're probably going to have fun doing it. So if you don't want any of those three things, work with other people. Like if you want dreams of grandeur and promises, or get to hang out with these celebrities, cool, go do that. This is what my people do.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. What is, and I think this will probably be seen by a couple young actors out there.
Sure.
Let's leave them with something, because I think my audience got more than enough from out of this. But if you're someone, actually no, screw just acting. If you're someone who's an entrepreneur, you're a founder, you're a creator of some sort, but let's say you got no money, you got a vision, you want to execute on it, lay out some fundamentals that they can just sort of follow along to just be like, nudge them in the right direction.
So the first thing I would say is that, this is true in all levels of business. For something to have value, it has to cost you something. It just does. It does. So most people don't have time or money, except everybody has time and money. It just, you have to prioritize. You have to decide what's important to you. Even in Canada here, like our student loans, for example, are zero interest and you don't make any payments till 6 months after graduation. Like there are things that you can do. Like when you're like, oh, I didn't save up any money to train. You didn't need to, but you have to, but if you do it, then commit to the training like somebody who wants to make all that money back and a whole bunch more. Don't pretend it's a Fitness World membership and that by getting the membership, you have a six pack. You haven't gone to the gym yet. Like you got to do the work, but also understand that if you want to compete at the highest level, train at the highest level. You want to work, you want to be different, be different. Don't wait for the phone to ring. Be in the mainstream, but also create your own independent stuff and be so good at both that the pendulum keeps feeding into itself with your independent and your mainstream work. Like that's actually the secret. Everybody who does that ends up wildly successful. And I'll promise you, that's just what it is. Like, it's not even like, I hope so, fingers are crossed for you. It's like, no, that's literally everybody that's had success has done that. Is it scary? Yep. But so is buying a house. So is having a baby. Life is scary. Life is going to throw a whole bunch of things at you that are going to be like, I don't know if I can afford it. Like, what if I lose my job? Then my baby starves to death. Yeah. So don't lose your job, and it's like, well, what if nobody wants to hire me? Then create a different look, get a new skill, make your own project. Like there's always answers, but if you're always setting yourself up for failure, congratulations. You're probably going to prove yourself right.
That's the best way to end it. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, cheers,
Thank you. And I'll talk to you soon, brother.
Sounds good, buddy.